I'm gonna try to do a walkthrough and answer some basic questions I get about intercoolers. I'm about to build a 1,000 horsepower air-to-air intercooler for a project for a customer. It's I think a 6.0 swapped 88 millimeter, something or the other, something big. So I'm gonna go ahead and build an intercooler for him using this Garrett core. I'm gonna build the tanks from scratch. When I make a tank, I usually use 125. Once you get this cut, prepped, and lined up properly, once you weld them correctly, they'll never come apart. So I built my tanks out of 125. I'll go ahead and get this drawn up. It's a 12-inch tall core, so that means the tank will be like 11.8 inches tall. You want a little overlap at the ends, so you'll get a really solid weld. So yeah, I'll stop rambling. I'll go ahead and get this drawn up and go in there and cut the tanks out and get them prepared to weld. This is a 12-inch tall core. Yeah, it's right at 12, so that means I'll make the tank probably 11.8 inches tall. I'm actually writing that down, you can't see it. 11.8 inches tall. The intercooler is 3.8 wide, so I'll make the side tank 3.5, because again, I want some overlap to make so you're not just butting up the weld and not having any material by it. You have the overlap. It's easier for me to show you than it is to explain it. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is I'm going to draw the tank out on the sheet metal and get ready to cut them. And the easiest way to get two perfectly identical tanks for each side is to draw them and then cut them all at the same time. So I'll show you that as well. Okay, I drew this out real quick. Again, 11 3/4 tall. This is a 12-inch tall sheet, 12-inch tall core. So I'll have a little space at the top and the bottom to make sure it gets a really solid weld. 3-inch wide tanks. I always put the same. I forgot to draw the line. I always put a taper at the bottom, so the tanks are going to taper like any cast tank you'd see, to where it faces the inlet. So they'll both have a taper, and what I'll do is I'll cut this one. You see I only drew one out, and I'm going to stack them all and run them all through the tank through the saw at the same time, so every piece will be the exact same size. That way you're not trying to go and cut one, then cut another, then cut another, and you'll get some deviation. Because I do these by hand, so it's not like I'm out on a a router or a CNC table. It's just popping them out. So I'm going to go ahead, take this in there, cut them out, and I'll bring back and show them to you real quick before I cut the side pieces. These are just the fronts, front and back. I'm just drawing out the side pieces, making them 3.5 inches wide. Like I said, the intercooler itself is like 3.8, so I have a little bit of overlap by making them a hair narrower to get a more solid weld when I'm welding them to the core. So that's the fronts and backs. Again, I just stacked them, cut them all at once, so they're all going to be the exact same size. I'm going to go ahead and draw them out on the side so I can run them through the brake and bend the side pieces to match, and then it's on to welding. Real simple. Alright, I've got those drawn. Went ahead and did the center pilot hole for the inlets on both sides, so I'll go ahead and run them through the brake and get them bent to fit the other tanks so I can tack them up. And once I tack them and weld them, then I go back and I drill the hole for the inlet and outlet. It's easier to, or not easier, better to do it afterwards, because the hole gets, I'm going to do a 3-inch inlet and outlet on here, and this is only 3.5 inch wide. So if you drill the hole beforehand, and once you put the heat there, it likes to pull and melt away that edge. So it's better to just weld it solid and then go back and drill it afterwards. That way you're not worried about the heat melting that edge away. I'm sorry, the phone rung and I completely forgot where I was and that I was actually recording. So let me backtrack some if I skipped anything. Drew the sides, went and ran through the brake, so I'll go in there now, get these untaped, line them up, tack them. I'll do a stitch on the inside. Then I go back, weld the outside, then I'll drill the holes and cut the inlet outlet weld those up before I put them on the core. So yeah, let me move to the fab room and get these fit and tacked up. This piece is peeled and ready to weld. A lot of people ask me what aluminum. This is 5052. I use 5052 or 6061 on stuff, but I don't do tanks out of 6061 because I can't bend it without it breaking. So 5052 will bend much easier. If you use a good grade, it bends without cracking. Back in 2016 when I started doing a bunch of intercoolers mail order. Damn, I can't see it on here. And I was trying to find a good supplier. I went through several trying to find the, there it is, right supplier for aluminum. I even had some 5052 come in that looked fine, but it was kind of grainy. And you know, I run it through the brake, and sure enough, you know, 15-20 degrees in the brake, you start seeing cracks in the aluminum through the bend, which wasn't a big deal because I could weld it back up. But I think that aluminum was more, it was just more brittle, and you get, you know, never failed, you get a broken intake come back. And that went on, you know, looking for the right supplier, the right aluminum for a while. But once I found it, the company I use now, man, I haven't changed since because their stuff is nice, and it makes making the product, you know, better, and it allows me to do a better product. So I've been doing these intercoolers for a while now with the same supplier, 6 years, and I don't think I fixed the intercooler. I haven't fixed one of my intercoolers in 6 years. So yeah, the right material makes a big difference. The right fit on the tanks makes a big difference, and those are really the key things, along with temperature and, you know, penetration when welding, to make the intercooler last and be a good unit. All right, enough rambling. Let me get to welding these up.
my soul. I want it all. Pushing through this life.